Coming up on AI Haven't a Clue, I've been listening. I'm like ChatGPT now, I listen everywhere.
A new ChatGPT feature, and should we let AI book our next holiday?
I guarantee there will be a team of people who would have lost their jobs after that. The AI challenge returns, and we're talking about the big AI trends in media with journalist Jack Benjamin.
Their audience is essentially disappearing because of AI search, and they're getting screwed, essentially, in terms of they can't monetize anything.
Hello and welcome to AI Haven't a Clue, the podcast where one AI novice, that's me, gets to chat with one AI expert. James Chandler, that's you.
That'll be me. Yeah, oh, very good. Someone said to me, a listener texted me and said, why does George sound so surprised at the very start when he says, hello? It's almost like you've caught him off guard when he introduces the podcast. But
every week
really
I'm like, oh, they're letting us do another? Oh.
Living a week at a time.
As is this crazy world of AI, where it just changes by the day, and we're just trying to keep up, aren't we, James?
Yeah, just about. You're sort of helping me. The guests are helping me. Jack, who's coming on later, is very, very good. We get a slightly different perspective on the world from him. But yeah, as always, it's a matter of what do we not talk about? I mean, there's just so much.
Yeah, this week we have got big news stories, including a new ChatGPT feature. We are looking at jobs and the impact it's having, and also about chatbots' impact on marriages. Yes. Marriages. That's on the way, as is the return of our listener question. The AI challenge is back. And yeah, James, don't sound too sad. I know you're down, but it's all right. You might win this week. It's okay. That's coming at the end. And yeah, James, as you mentioned, the brilliant Jack Benjamin, I think he's going to be a bit more aligned with my viewpoint on AI. So I'm quite excited to have him on the podcast.
Yeah, I think you're sort of fed up with experts who've got their glass very much half full. Jack's certainly isn't.
Honestly, you're so right. Like every week, it's like, oh, isn't AI the best thing ever? Oh, we love AI. I'm bored of it, James. I'm pleased Jack's coming on. He's going to be a bit more glass half empty.
Yeah, I think, he's almost self-confessed. Look, I've got a bone to pick with you as well. Last week, you were talking about, you were citing sources at Meta who had told you that they call Mark Zuckerberg the Zuck.
Yes.
I have since followed up, as promised on last episode, with my own sources deep in the Meta organisation who have told me that no such name is given to Mark Zuckerberg, and they are not told to call him that at all. And will you give an apology on the podcast?
I absolutely will not. And do you know why, James? Because over the last week, I bumped into another person that I happen to know who works at Meta. And I said to them, is it true about the Zuck? They said yes. They also said, I talked about the whole AI glasses mishap of Mark Zuckerberg on stage, and there was all the issues. And they said, I guarantee there will be a team of people who would have lost their jobs after that.
God, I mean, it's a big one. It's a big one. I'd say the same as I said last week. At least they didn't try and rig it, and it's that sort of faux live thing. You know, fair play that he was sort of going live. But I think we're going to have to get into naming sources at some point. You're just going to have to write a name down in an envelope. And the other way.
No, I'm a journalist with integrity.
You're protecting sources. Okay.
I'm protecting my sources. You know, frankly, maybe the person you chat to just hasn't got enough sway. They're not in there with the Zuck.
People, multiple sources.
Multiple sources. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, if anyone listening works at Meta and would like to jump in on this, is it the Zuck or Zuckoff? What is it? This is a chapter that we will continue. We are jumping right in now, though, with some big news. James, we're going to start this week with a new ChatGPT feature called Pulse. What's going on?
New one that they've released. It basically does personalised research on your behalf overnight, which it will serve you up as a little digest in the morning. So you're not even having to prompt it. It's all based on what you've searched for before, what it knows about you, kind of what you told it, what it can extrapolate from that. So yeah, you wake up in the morning, you've got this kind of ready-made little thing. I guess it's a build on things like Apple News, tries to curate the things that it will think you'll be interested in Amazon famously has done this with, you know, people who bought this, you know, you're probably going to like this. So it's the kind of the algorithm serving up little tidbits for you as you wake up in the morning. Very nice.
More of like a social media rather than a search engine, maybe.
Yeah, kind of more like an assistant. I think that's probably where ChatGPT wants to get to. You know, this idea that it knows so much about you and doing it in a sort of a non-creepy way of just, you know, helping find relevant stuff for you that it thinks you might want. And of course it will know patterns through the day, it will know stuff that you do habitually. Yeah, I think it's quite neat. Not the only thing that they've not the only new feature that they've released as well. They've put some parental controls on as well, so parents, adults can start to tighten up what other people, younger people, might be looking at in there as well.
How does that work? How are they doing that?
Well, you know, you're effectively giving control. So if you've got someone who's set up on a different profile or something like that, you can limit in the same way that you can do in lots of the other platforms. You can kind of limit the kind of content they get. So if they're prompting stuff that, you know, you might sort of get suggestive type things that you might get back, they won't see that, and they'll be explicit about, you know, we're not going to show you these things. They're not trying to hoodwink them at all. Some critics are saying, you know, it's far too late, this thing should have been baked in right from the start, but still good that it's there.
Yeah, good. I mean, I would like to sort of, and I'm sure it will be, have this stuff stress tested and see how protective it actually is, and whether putting a few alternative prompts in there gets you there anyway.
Yeah. So
I'm sure that will happen over the coming weeks. Spotify, James, we've been talking a lot recently about AI slop. For those who have heard this term AI slop, because we've mentioned it a few times, but perhaps they don't know what it means. What is AI slop?
It's the sort of stuff that's created by machines that kind of thinks that you'll like. It doesn't really have a lot of sort of integrity. Its purpose, it's sort of not really sure what it is. It's just sort of there in a weird way, sort of clogging up the internet, or in this case, clogging up Spotify. You know, it's just stuff. It's not momentous. It's not that memey. It's just kind of there. But Spotify, fantastically, and I think this is a really, really good move. I've actually gone after the people that are creating this stuff. So bad actors specifically, they call out, that are generating just loads and loads of AI content. We talked about it last week, the podcast company were going to do, you know, thousands and thousands of AI podcasts. It's just is the epitome of slop, just stuff. It's got no real sort of place. And yeah, Spotify are going to start stripping it out. They reckon that they've removed so far over 75 million spammy tracks from Spotify, which is a huge number.
Yes, it is good, and yes, I'm pleased they're doing it. Well, the reason they're doing this is so they don't have to pay out more money.
Yeah, it's the point that, you know, the payouts that they give to artists have absolutely skyrocketed. It was $1 billion back in 2014. If you look at it last year, it was 10 billion, so it's tenfold up. And you know, that's like catnip for people who want to sort of hack around the system and create this stuff. These are these bad actors that they're talking about.
So yeah, good news, but I guess it's an example of when kind of the level of AI regulation that we should have across wider society is kind of only in place mainly for financial reasons. But thus is the way of the world, James. Thus is the way of the world.
Well, and the other thing is, it's like, because there isn't industry-wide regulation, you're now going to have individual companies deciding on how they regulate it as well. So whilst that's a good thing, the sort of the shadow to that is it's going to get really knotty and complicated, and, you know, different platforms are going to do it in kind of different ways, and there won't be any alignment, which will be pretty hard to unpick in the future. But I'm saying good news. Well done Spotify.
Right, James, I've got some good news according to one news story and some bad news according to another. Good news, apparently, AI is not to blame for the tough job market we're currently experiencing. Bad news is 1 million jobs in London could be changed by AI. It strikes me that perhaps we aren't entirely sure the impact AI is having on jobs.
Well, I think it's probably mixed. I mean, you're talking about the Guardian article there. So they're saying actually AI is a bit of a scapegoat here, and maybe it's not to blame for this really tricky job market. wider economic climate, of course, is going to play into this. AI is kind of the bogeyman that people are pointing at. The article goes on to say graduates still fare better than non-graduates. So if you go and study, invest the time, the energy in doing that 3 years doing your degree, you're still more likely to get a job. People are changing how they hire as well. So it's just not a case that AI is eliminating all of these entry-level jobs. But yes, the yin to that yang, I guess, is the story that these 1 million jobs in London could be changed by AI. And I think the word changed is important. It could have been replaced. It could be eliminated. It could have been anything like that, but it's not. Jobs are changing. And the BBC reporting is talking about hospitals, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, how AI can support pharmacists, so it can look at demand patterns, it can improve efficiency, this thing we come back to again and again, save people from doing repetitive tasks. So I'm not trying to put a sort of a positive spin on it. I think plainly and clearly AI is taking jobs, and we should be honest about that, but the word changed, I think, is an important one. It's kind of what these people do that they didn't do before because of AI, I guess, is the important thing.
Talking of things people weren't doing before AI, they weren't turning to the likes of ChatGPT and other LLMs. You like that,
Very
James?
good, George.
Large language models.
Oh, look at him. Look at George. George Butler's in the AI game, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
For those that don't know, LLMs, such as ChatGPT... people are turning to the likes of ChatGPT and Anthropic, and let's have another one, Gemini.
Are you reading these? Have you got a list?
No, I'm not. I've been listening. I'm like ChatGPT now. I listen everywhere. I'm collecting your data, James Chandler. Right. So I'm sounding creepy because this story is quite creepy because couples have blamed ChatGPT for fueling conflicts and also influencing divorce cases.
Yeah, I think this is interesting. So there's an AI pioneer, a guy called Jeff Hinton. He's come out and he said that ChatGPT specifically played a role in ending his long-term relationship after his partner used it to assess his behaviour. So, shock horror, man cannot admit that he was at fault, and it must have been the technology.
Also, James, is there an element of the classic thing with AI where you're saying something and you just want to be reaffirmed, i.e. a wife goes, oh, my husband's really lazy, he doesn't ever cook, he never takes the bins out, he's never there to do what we need to do, he's always out with his friends, and he sounds bad, doesn't he? And I should probably divorce him, shouldn't I? And ChatGPT writes back saying, you're right, he sounds useless, you should leave him.
Yeah, and then lots of other self-affirming things about what a brilliant partner you probably are. And if you went to an actual couples therapy session, that's not what a therapist is probably there to do. They're there to, let each party hear each other out. They're there not to sort of make any judgments, but perhaps point out some things. Of course, AI hasn't got the other side of the story. It hasn't got the sort of the husband, so it can't make a sort of a meaningful stab at trying to do this sort of couples therapy and push people through. So yeah, you'll bang on. It will do that reaffirming thing, and probably at the end will say something like, would you like me to create you a one-pager that you can stick on the fridge about how your husband could be better? Yes, please.
It's got links to divorce lawyers. Can I say something controversial? I think that if your marriage breaks down because of something ChatGPT has said to you, it was probably going to happen anyway.
Yes. I think ChatGPT has probably been a bit of a lubricant to speed things up, if nothing else. Yeah.
For once, maybe ChatGPT has done something good. And sorry to Jeff Hinton.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff.
I hope you're okay. And I hope I imagine I can just envisage Jeff surviving on Bud Light and frozen microwave lasagna meals, just throwing darts at a board that has like ChatGPT's image on.
Oh, poor man.
Sam Altman on the bullseye. Sending you love, Jeff. Thinking of you. I bet his wife's having a lovely time, though. Right. We are jumping from marital war to the continuation of the AI wars, which is once again an international news story because we talk all the time about the companies battling at each other out. We talk about how OpenAI is at war with Elon Musk and XAI, all that kind of stuff. But it is also at a political and international level as well. A big news story this week coming out of the UN General Assembly, as America have said, no, thank you very much to international AI oversight. James, what's been happening?
Well, it kind of stems from how Trump's been talking about the UN more generally. He's not particularly happy with it. I would imagine the UN's probably not on his Christmas card list.
Yeah, but that's because he didn't let them construct their New York building a few decades ago. And then that's because the escalator didn't work and because his auto cue prompter broke down. So you can't blame him.
He wasn't in the best mood. The backstory on this is that the UN have created a new group called the Global Dialogue on AI Governance. Basically, it's to help countries work together on AI. They've recognised, as we talk about so much on the pod around regulation, the tech is just moving so fast. Unless they've got some sort of alignment, they're not going to keep up with it. So the AI governance is to say that, the UN should do it. And actually, even China were saying, along with a bunch of other countries, that the UN should just lead on AI. They should lead on cooperation. They should lay out frameworks, kind of do it. Trump, as you nodded to, has said, no, we're not going to do that, actually. We don't want the UN coming up with rules. Trump thinks that each country should set its own standard, which, if you just go back to the Spotify story, one company kind of doing their own thing, it's a short-term fix. But in the long term, it starts to get very, very not indeed. So not wholly surprising by Trump. I think more surprising that China were up for the UN doing it.
Without meaning to sound sceptical, James, do you think the Chinese intent was genuine?
Tough, isn't it? I mean, they would... If I were the Chinese, I'd probably want to look like I'm cooperating to isolate the US and make them look like they're the only ones who aren't. And that is the case. I mean, they're the only ones saying, no, I don't think you should do it, UN. We're going to do it on our own. So... it's a stall if you haven't got the US on board, put it that way. Like trying to do anything on a global scale without them is going to be really, really tough.
All right, let's move on. I think we've all had enough Trump over the last few weeks. Let's talk about holidays instead. We all have a holiday, don't we? You know what? I think honestly, one of my favourite things about going away and going on holiday is that you get to look up where you're going to stay and you're going to think about the things that you're going to do. So some people, however... They don't like that, and they would rather just get AI to plan their next trip. But, James Chandler, this isn't necessarily a good idea.
Who's the other James? It's like we've got another James. Yeah, this one's for James Chandler on the call, please. Yeah, you're right. Should you be letting AI plan your trip? I mean, it sounds pretty good on the surface of it. I've planned many a trip. I remember you saying you've planned some trips with AI and it's been all right.
What? Which trips?
You planned a night out or something like that. Anyway, there are perils here. Travellers are increasingly relying on AI, but it's throwing up some weird things, like it's starting to invent places. It invented a place in Peru called the Sacred Canyon of Humantay, or it said the Eiffel Tower was in Beijing, or it gives sort of false details to people. We had that story about the influencers who asked it if they needed a visa, said it didn't. You did. There's all the hallucination stuff as well, so stuff that kind of sounds real on the surface but actually isn't until you interrogate it. So you get this mix as well, which is confusing, of real facts about somewhere but also some stuff that's kind of made up, but there's no real sort of difference. And a really interesting thing here, article on the BBC saying 30% of international travellers are now using generative AI for planning. I mean, that's a pretty big number, and those people before, I guess, would have been using other maybe slightly more reputable sources, certainly ones that have some oversight on stuff. But yeah, like whether it's marriage therapy or whether it's planning a trip, this hallucinations thing for me is a kind of a weird one.
It's so strange. So for those who may be new to AI hallucinations, James, right, this is when the Gen AI literally just makes something up that is completely unfactual, even though it's presenting it as the truth.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you have something? Weren't you asking it about something for something you were writing?
Yes, so I asked it to break down what we covered in our latest podcast. So I wanted a list of all the stories that we covered so that I could then go and write something. It came back with 2 completely false and made up stories. Completely false and made up. We did not cover this on the podcast. We did not talk about them at all in the slightest, and it's just lied to me about it.
Well, you know the moral of this tale. Just ask Molly. Just ask Mol.
I mean, producer Molly can do a lot, but I mean, not make up stories like ChatGPT.
Did you put it up on it? Did you call it out?
I did, and I think the thing that James I found most concerning is there was a slightly racist undertone to what it gave back. We had a fantastic guest on last week called Shilpa Soul, and ChatGPT claimed that Shilpa talked in her interview about Bollywood and about AI in Bollywood. She didn't.
No, not at all.
It's weird, isn't it?
That's bizarre, isn't it? But didn't even touch on it. Didn't go anywhere near. Oh, that's the sort of connective thing. Yeah, that's bizarre. And it's actually one of the points that she was making. It's kind of like based on history, which hasn't been particularly kind to women. It hasn't been particularly kind to minorities, and it's kind of playing out there. Wow, it's incredible.
And yeah, clearly it just shows that you can use AI as a tool, but you just always need to be using that human sense to check everything through. But yeah, I thought that was kind of concerning. Actually, it made me a bit.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Just to go back on this travel thing as well, like the kind of the misinformation thing. We often think a lot to do with politics and social media and current affairs, but it's kind of the same in travel. Photos that maybe aren't real photos that have been touched up in some way or AI enhanced, and you're not being told. So a room that could be you're being told is 5-star and looks pristine, you turn up, it's sort of slightly different. So I think there is a little bit of caution when you're using AI for travel stuff. I was talking to TripAdvisor the other day. They had we're talking about AI. I mean, that industry is really, really excited about AI, particularly the sort of agentic bit of it. The fact that you could have an agent that could go and do hotel and flights and itinerary and all that sort of stuff is pretty exciting. But you've got to double check some of this stuff. You've got to use it with a little bit of caution.
James, have you got a big thing for us this week? Something that you've been seeing or playing around with in the world of AI that you think's interesting?
Someone sent me something because I thought it was interesting. It was actually weird. It was US companies, US funeral homes, I should say, are now trialing AI obituary writers. So this idea that you can put a few prompts in, a few words, a few details about someone who's passed away, and it will create an obit for you, which is, tremendously efficient if you haven't got a lot of time. But it feels very, very sad indeed that someone's entire life and all the memories and the lovely stories you got about them could be sort of condensed by a machine into something and kind of spat out. So I was trying to find some of these online. I mean, you can find them to a penny, these kind of free things, but it got me thinking about writing lots of anecdotes about people. It's like a deeply personal thing. It's probably quite a cathartic thing for some people when you write this. How do you condense someone's life into a thing? The idea that we would sort of punch it into AI and allow them to do it made me feel a bit icky. And me, I'm glass overflowing, but it did feel a bit weird. It was like this sort of commodifying grief. It was you can't even be bothered to write someone a decent obituary. It felt a bit weird to me.
Yeah, I think it's a bit gross. I also can't wait for the hallucinations when someone goes up to read it and goes, yes, George Butler lived a fantastic life. He scored 300 Premier League goals, making him one of the... Like, no, he didn't. He just liked football. He just liked football. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, no, it's weird. Don't like that at all. Thank you for letting us know.
I'll come with something a bit more peppy next week.
Yeah, I mean, that would be
a bit
Debbie Downer review, but hey, the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI, we cover it all.
Indeed.
Time now for this week's listener question, where if James, this is big news. It's not new news, but it's big news. If your question gets asked on this podcast, tell everybody, James, what do you win?
You win a massive, real-life, ceramic AI Haven't a Clue mug. Oh,
yeah, it's actually not massive. It's standard size. But just so the FCA don't come after us. But you do win a mug. And this week's winner of said mug is Jen. Well done. You will be sipping your tea with your AI having a clue mug. What a time to be alive. This week's question is, with all this talk of AI boosting productivity, who actually benefits? Workers, companies, or just shareholders? Oh, yeah, Jen. Pop off.
Yeah, that's nice. I guess the easy, lazy answer is it's probably shareholders. I think if companies can get it right, like, we have talked about efficiency, we talk about these things. Lufthansa, I see, have said that they are going to cut 4,000 jobs purely for efficiencies. I mean, they've just come out and said it.
Hopefully not pilots.
Well, you'd hope so. Matter of time, though. But, if AI can help you cut some costs, it can speed things up, maybe it sort of can unlock some new money, some new revenue from somewhere. That's pretty good. So I think companies can win. Shareholders, undoubtedly, particularly if you're investing in the right company, you will be pushing AI. That will be incredibly seductive as a shareholder, because cutting costs, saving money means somehow that's probably can come back to you too, and that share price usually will do pretty well if companies are up, talking up AI, that kind of thing. Yes, I suppose if you're not doing the sort of the dross grunt work anymore, which isn't very rewarding, and you can be more creative, be more strategic, all things that we've talked about before, that's a bit more rewarding in doing your job. You're getting paid more money for that. I don't know. Are you sort of the one gaining? Don't know.
Well, it works for you. I mean, you've just set up an AI bot now, haven't you? That just replies to emails. Just you don't bother any. You don't even turn up anymore, do you?
I only do about half this podcast. I just sort of dip in and dip out. It's if anyone can find out which bits it's me and which bits it's not, then they go for it.
It is a good point though, because clearly there is a huge benefit. Businesses, shareholders, and I suppose, other than a bit of time saved, how will it help employees? How will it help us?
Well, I think the history lesson will tell you that if you go back and look at, big technological leaps, electricity, the internet, all that sort of stuff, eventually those benefits do flow to people. You do flow to workers eventually. Stuff gets cheaper for people. There's new industries that sort of spring up, better jobs get created, all that sort of thing. I'm not quite sure we're there yet. I think when you look back in history, we'll be at that really knotty period where it's just like swathes of people maybe not feeling the benefit of it. I think when you look on a personal thing, and this is what we were talking about with ChatGPT, what was it, 70% or something of what they're doing is all around, them and their personal life. I think it has a huge benefit to people. But as workers, it's a tricky one, because as I say, you're holding that tension between trying to be excited and learn about this stuff while at the same time being utterly terrified about what it might replace and what you're doing.
I think you're right, though. I mean, I've just found this week I used AI to help plan my holiday. I'm so excited because I am going to Amsterdam and I'm going up the Empire State Building. ChatGPT sorted it all for me.
He can't help himself. Just a little.
Right. Thank you, Jen.
Good question. Enjoy your mug.
Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy your AI having a clue brew. If you've got a question for us, do get in touch. Email aihaventaclue@gmail.com. Also, at this stage of the podcast, I think it's probably a nice little time to plug our Substack. It's free. You can get a little update of all the news that goes on in the world of AI. And also, if you're feeling generous and kind, why not subscribe, rate, review this podcast and share it with anyone that you think might want to know a little bit more about the world of AI. Because, James, it's not just us chatting away. We have brilliant guests onto the podcast who can help open our minds and get us thinking a little bit differently about AI, much like Jack Benjamin, reporter at the Media Leader, who was about to pop into the studio to tell us all about the shifting world of media advertising and publishing, and Jack's own personal viewpoint on AI as a journalist. Jack, welcome to AI Having a Clue. Thank you so much for stopping by. Brilliant to have you on, because we want to pick your brains as a journalist in the media space in ad land. You were seeing and hearing from all sorts of different businesses across the wide range of media and advertising. What are the big trends that you're seeing, the big media trends perhaps across the landscape to do with AI that are really standing out right now?
Thank you for having me. There's a couple trends that stand out to me. One is you start to see some of the AI companies themselves tried to manufacture a little demand for the supply of their products, and you're seeing that OpenAI just launched their first brand campaign over the weekend. So you're starting to see the AI companies actually move into media and advertising because they want people to use their products, and they're coming out with products that there is mass take-up of some of them, and some of the other ones maybe not so much. There's a couple other things. There's been an embrace of the AI sloppening, the release of apps just in the past, one app in the past couple of days, which was Meta's Vibes.
What was that phrase you just used?
The sloppening.
The sloppening. James, have you heard that one before?
No, I like it.
It's good. I like that. The AI. Define it. What does it mean?
Well, I don't know if I've seen it used anywhere else, but I also don't want to take credit for coining something if someone else has come to this independently. Basically, it's the idea that people are just spending a tremendous amount of time watching a ton of AI slop, that the social platforms in particular are flooding their platforms with this. I mean, I don't want to say it's crap because that's a subjective thing. Some people genuinely enjoy these videos, but not myself.
So we had, I'm sure you saw the story fairly recently, and we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, about the podcast business that has just set up, and it is just going to be flooding the market with AI slop. What do you think the impact is, I guess, for both audiences and as well for advertisers of the market just being flooded with this, well, as you call it, crap?
Well, there's so much noise, isn't there? And I think I would like to know, and there's more work I'm sure I could be doing as a journalist on this, is how much ad revenue is Meta or TikTok generating from videos that are AI generated. You're starting to see some reporting come out about the sheer amount of money that creators can make just by creating the right types of AI videos. There was one that got tons of views of like a cat jumping off of a diving board. I'm sure you've seen this. That made a tremendous amount of money for a creator that put very little effort into just obviously putting a prompt in and then posting it, right? I don't think that's the type of content that advertisers generally want to be around, but I can't speak obviously to any individual brand. To me, that's a relatively low quality content. So you'd think, okay, maybe that might cause people to rethink, should I be changing my media investment strategy slightly to maybe sit next to higher quality stuff?
I wonder if it goes back to, and you always get back to this on the sort of the quality debate. And I've heard some advertisers be quite eloquent about this, is yes, there is a quality thing. You clearly don't want to be around very, very poor quality stuff. The ultimate metric, though, is it working? Like, has it got attention? Are people engaging with it in some way, shape, or form? Like, the whole Jet 2 thing is kind of not great quality in the memes that are picked up, but it's kind of, it's of its moment. It's kind of, it's having its time. You might not want to be associated with it in the sort of the long term, but it's kind of culturally relevant and you probably want to be there. It's
an interesting one because I hear that, and at the same time, I think, from a long-term brand building perspective, maybe I'm speaking too anecdotally, but I would view a brand that's next to some of this content in a more negative light than if I saw them against a, TV broadcast show, against a news brand, or against, something on the radio, because those are just mediums that I associate with high quality, but also editorial control and accountability. I think that's really the important bit, that if I don't like something on those programs, I have someone I can talk to, or I can go to someone's manager and mention it.
What other trends are you seeing across media right now, Jack? Are there any related to AI that are exciting you?
It's an interesting one. I'm generally less bullish about AI. The people that I talk to are generally very excited about the opportunity. The question I tend to ask people is this more than a cost-cutting exercise? Is this more than just seeking efficiencies? I'll get a lot of very well media-trained answers that say yes, but the majority of people I would speak to, maybe off the record or more candidly, would say most of what we're trying to do here is create business efficiency. I don't necessarily see the vision of how they're going to move beyond that. I think there's a desire to say, well, we're going to make better stuff using AI, whether it's a media agency, whether it's a media owner, or someone outside of the media industry altogether. But it's not something that I've heard a great deal of specifics on, and I'm worried about that.
Brilliant.
Yeah. There's other trends as well that I'm seeing, and I think not to be a too doomerish, but
oh no, I love it, Jack. Let's do more doom. Bring it on.
The implications for the publishing industry, for the future of the open web, I think are actually quite dire. It's really fascinating, but,
well, you had a bit of a scoop on this, didn't you, about the impact that AI is going to have on publishers. For those who haven't read and haven't seen the story, could you tell everybody?
Yes. So, I mean, the top line basically is I was speaking with the board member of the Independent Publishers Alliance. There's an alliance of independent publishers. There's 300 different publishing brands within that alliance. And Chris Dicker, who is this board member I was speaking to, basically estimated that by this time next year, or by the end of the year next year, that 100 of those 300 may well just be completely gone.
Wow.
Because they'll have to close down because they can't monetize anything in terms of their audience. Their audience is essentially disappearing because of AI search.
Wow.
And they're not getting any referral traffic, and therefore they can't get any revenue from that traffic. A lot of these businesses are reliant on programmatic ad revenue. That's the only way that they're really going to be able to make money. They haven't invested in a subscription business. They haven't necessarily figured out a way to build community and all these other things that you hear a lot of publishers needing to move toward. And they're getting screwed, essentially. And the way that Chris Dicker put it, which I think is important for people to hear and understand, is because there's an argument that says publishers maybe there's an oversupply of them. Maybe some of the ones deserve to die in a very sort of capitalistic way, say, well, they didn't adapt, so they should die. The way that they see it is overnight, essentially, they had a deal of a value exchange with Google, and that deal suddenly went away without really any warning, without any conversation or discussion about what a new deal, what a new value exchange might look like. That's fully out of their control. And importantly, what Google gets to show on AI search is their content in aggregate that they would say, stolen. So they've given all the content. Well, they haven't actually given it. Google's taken it and then is using it against them. So there is, without regulatory intervention, things don't look very good for those companies, which is a shame.
Where do you think the regulatory bit comes on here, Jack? Because I think it's spot on. It's a rough deal for advertisers and news brands. We talk so much about how sort of innovation and stuff just outpaces regulation. It's often a sort of a second thought. Regulators, governments are a little bit slower. What difference do you think regulation could make here if you're saying that 1 in 3 of those publishers could be out of business in a year?
Could make a big difference. I'm not especially optimistic about it, just given the government's sort of stance in the UK. They've clearly sort of wanted to court some of these big Silicon Valley companies for investment because the economy here isn't doing so hot, right? But in doing that, they've sort of abandoned some of the creative industries. They've maybe abandoned some of these publishers. And so I'm not sure if there's going to be any regulation coming in the immediate term. There are definitely lobbying efforts to sort of force that hand. There are ways of doing this, of forcing Google to the table and saying, hey, you need to, in order, or else we're going to, problem is fines don't really work. Now, do they? Because fines are mean nothing to a company as big as Google. So maybe there has to be some other form of amelioration, but there needs to be some consequence for copyright infringement, essentially. If there is, then maybe they can create a new value exchange. So a publisher could say, okay, every time that you scrape us, fine, but just pay us some value. It's certainly from talking to Chris that I didn't get the sense of optimism that was necessarily on the table. The other solution, which is much more radical and requires mass cooperation amongst publishers that are otherwise competing with each other, so I don't think it's necessarily going to happen either, would be every publisher goes to Google and says, we are leaving. You will not be able to access any published material from us on Google. And then they can go to a competitor like Microsoft or something like that and just say, hey, you can pay us pennies on the pound because we're not earning anything over there. And we'll be there instead. And then maybe audiences move. But that seems pretty radical. I don't know if we're there yet. And I also don't know if we could count on that level of cooperation from publishers.
Interesting. I've got to talk about the Future Media Manchester. It was great. I was there. I had the pleasure of interviewing Gemma Atkinson from Hit Radio on stage. And I have to say, James, it was really nice.
Go on.
For a change to kind of work alongside a really brilliant broadcaster who is, a professional, a warm personality, nice to be. It was not. That's Jack. You know what I mean? It's nice to work around good people for a change.
I'm nice to you. I think I'm too kind to you. This is unbelievable. Scandalous.
Jack, I bring it up because you did a session around AI. I hear things got a bit heated. What went down? Tell us.
Well, I was chatting with, there's a professor at the University of Salford named Andy Mia. He's definitely something of an expert on AI, on bioethics, on lots of interesting sort of future-facing tech challenges that as a society we need to sort of handle. And it was an interesting conversation because, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit of an AI skeptic. I'm not an optimist, and he's very much an optimist. And he was talking in great detail about what he has coined sort of relational intelligence, which, as opposed to, you hear a lot of conversation around like super intelligence and all this sort of language that's being used by the likes of Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg. But really, in his view, a relational intelligence, the fact that people are actually developing close interpersonal relationships with their AI, naming them, using them for any variety of advice or tasks, I'm sure you guys have talked much on this show, is maybe the most important social development at the moment with regard to AI. Certainly, you can understand how brands or advertisers might be wanting to play a role in that, because you're talking really about creating some sort of trusted relationship between you and a chatbot. And if you have that, then maybe you can sort of slip your way as a brand through the back door or something like that. Yeah. Because ultimately, I think I don't know what other model these AI companies have for making enough money to make their investment make sense without embracing an advertising model at some point. So that was sort of the sense of the discussion.
Do you think that will happen? Do you think that sooner rather than later, these huge AI businesses will break into an advertising model? I
think they'll be forced to. Just the sheer amount of money that is being tossed around at the moment, I don't know how they're going to make their money back unless they embrace advertising. I mean, we saw that with the tech platforms previously. They realized, actually, this is a great way to advertise to people because we're collecting all their data. I mean, people are telling their AI like all types of things about themselves that maybe has already been picked up by other tech platforms and maybe hasn't. And that's really valuable for advertisers to know about. And it's usually either advertising or subscription. There are plenty of people that have paid a subscription for, ChatGPT or any of these other competitors. They're also not that expensive. I mean, we're talking about like hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment. In order to make the money back, you'd have to have everyone in the world subscribe to you. Well, I've not actually done the math. Don't quote me on the math, but you need a lot of subscribers to make that work.
And these things, like you said it right. Netflix famously said they wouldn't entertain ads. Jonah Peretti, the founder at BuzzFeed, came out. He said he hated online advertising. He loved magazine ads, but you could never create that. It was years before they then plugged into the sort of programmatic pipeline and they start serving ads. So that kind of allure, it's quite seductive, the ad model. And you're right. We've talked about it before. I think Benedict Evans coins it as humans can only have a maximum of 12 subscriptions of anything. So it's unfounded that you or I could have 6 or 7 subscriptions to different AI models, to Claude. It's just not going to happen. So eventually, some are more established. The Googles, the Microsoft, that they know how ads work. ChatGPT, undoubtedly, given the scale, we were talking about some of the insane numbers last week, are going to get into that game. So it's scale and its level of information. You're bang on, Jack.
And they're getting into the browser game just as well. I think there's an actual challenge to Google that's finally happened after a couple decades. OpenAI wanting to come out with a browser. But there's no reason to get into the browser game unless you want to collect a tremendous amount of data about people and then sell that to brokers or advertisers.
Yeah, I read this fascinating article about the battleground for the internet has always been about the entry point. And if you remember the start of the internet, it was dial-ups. You had to go through AOL, you had to go through Yahoo, or you went through Microsoft. Then everyone's starting place was search, was sort of Google. Slowly that slips into things like YouTube. Mobile phones come along and the sort of the O2s, the E's have the gateway to it, but maybe they didn't make the most of that. And now, arguably, for a lot of people, maybe TikTok's the entry point, but more and more, I can put a button on my home screen that opens ChatGPT, and that's my entry point to the internet. So that's the battleground, is if you can get people, because they don't need to go and use the rest of the internet, because ChatGPT can find and surface and do everything for me. I only really need that one app, maybe my alarm or something like that, but I'll be able to figure that out soon. So interesting.
Especially if you integrate that into maybe the rest of your desktop experience.
Yeah.
If the browser can understand maybe what's going on in another app that you've got open, you can really understand why people might be attracted to that. Personally, my front page of the internet is I've got the Wikipedia app downloaded on my phone, actually.
Well, what is your it's a really good question, actually, Jack. What's your relationship as a journalist professionally in your working day? What's your relationship with AI?
I don't use it at all.
And
actually.
why?
Couple reasons. One is, and I talked about this a lot internally with our own team, I think it's useful to have some level of inefficiency in your work. Especially as a journalist, you need to be an expert in your field, especially as a trade journalist. And I don't think taking any sort of mental shortcut is helpful to that. So even if it means that maybe I'm actually writing out a transcription of an interview that I've done, or it means that I'm taking extra time to do desk research, thankfully at the Media Leader, we don't necessarily rush content out there unnecessarily. So I'm lucky in that respect that I don't have quotas of like 5-6 articles a day like you see at some other publishers. So I don't need it necessarily. And also, I think I would be doing a disservice to myself as a young journalist, especially in terms of the skills that I want to develop, by using AI for that purpose. There's also, of course, the trust issue in terms of, how would we communicate that if I did use AI in terms of any process of the journalistic endeavor, the story. We'd have to communicate that in some way that's transparent. I was actually really worried. I saw there was reporting that Business Insider had greenlit their staff to say that they could use AI in the drafting process just a couple weeks ago, and they wouldn't necessarily flag that to consumers. I mean, if you want to undermine trust in your journalistic product, that's like the fastest way you could possibly do that, right? Because then you don't know where the sourcing came from of certain information that might have been used in that story. There's just an opacity of the process, and it's harder to hold people to account for that.
And Jack, what do you make of journalists who are using it to help with the content they put out there?
I think there's certainly use cases that make some sense. I interviewed Alan Rusbridger, this was a couple months ago now, so obviously things have changed very quickly with regard to AI. For anyone who's listening and doesn't know who Alan is, he edited The Guardian for a very long time and was at Prospect Magazine, is still at Prospect Magazine, but will be leaving at the end of the year. He described using AI to sort of in the investigative process to have thousands of documents, of pages of documents that you might be reviewing for anything, and you're sort of needle in a haystacking it. And so you could use AI to make that process a lot more efficient, and you could probably, if you know exactly what you're looking for, that seems like a very legitimate use case that's probably not going to harm anyone, right? Beyond that, I would be concerned with serious use, certainly in terms of written copy, even if it's a first draft. I think you as a journalist, you are creating the tools and using the tools by which you might be replaced. Because if you can use a robot to turn a press release into a news article, then why the hell do they need you?
Are you concerned for your profession?
I am concerned for my profession, but I mean, more so the business side than necessarily journalists misusing AI. I think there will be cases of that undermine trust, and the publishers that retain trust, I think, will do better. I'm concerned when I do the reporting that says, holy crap, a third of independent publishers could go under within like 15 months. How many journalists have already lost their jobs, and how many are going to lose their jobs? That floods the market. A lot of those people are going to places like Substack, where you're really just a part of the attention economy. You're sort of almost like a creator. You don't have editorial oversight, so if you don't have any editing experience, that's a concern. A lot of people just leave the industry altogether. You end up with these dead zones where there's just no reporting being done, especially local reporting. I mean, regional press are really suffering at the moment. And this is not just the UK, this is happening in the US and pretty much anywhere. That concerns me. I mean, it should concern everyone who cares about the sort of the pillars of democracy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the truth.
Yeah.
But the sort of democratic experiment that the truth undergirds is at serious risk. I don't think it's overstating that. And you have people that are leading a lot of these AI companies that have clear interests, or at least are happy to be seen with those in power in different countries that are very happy to undermine those interests. And I don't think I don't want to get conspiratorial or anything. I don't know what's being spoken about between Sam Altman and Donald Trump when they were both visiting Windsor, but there might be an alignment, right? Certainly the result is that journalists are being put in a really tough spot.
What do you think that alignment, if you were to indulge it, you're in a conspiracy, what do you think that alignment would be?
It's not really in my nature to indulge conspiracies as a journalist. It's in the interest of OpenAI et al. To sort of get rid of as many publishers now that they've already got all the data that they probably ever need to create their large language models. It's in some interest to say, well, we want everyone to come to us, not go to the publisher directly, because we want people to spend as much time with our platform. And if we're an information provider, then other information providers are our competition. And it's certainly in the interests of the Trump administration, as they've not been shy about telling us, that they're happy to attack the free press because that would hold them to account for a huge variety of corruption issues, and I can go on. But this isn't a political podcast. So there's definitely an alignment of interest. I think more to the point, I don't necessarily trust big tech leaders to care about the same things that the average human in Western democracy cares about. And that should concern all of us. And so maybe go out and support your local paper if you have the means to do that. That would be my message.
There must be this sort of tension within you, because your inbox must be overflowing with press releases written by tech companies who are trying to pitch you something that they want you to write. I mean, that must be just overflowing. Yet, you're very articulate about how you sort of see that. How do you square that off? Because, effectively, this stuff that's sort of paying the mortgage for you. I mean, it's sort of interesting.
Well, I mean, as a journalist, I think my role is really to, first of all, tell the truth. If the truth is muddled, then certainly to tell things how I see them with my sort of bank of knowledge and experience. Certainly the folks on our sales team can deal with anything else. But, in terms of the press release issue, what's important to me is that I'm fair in our coverage, and as long as I'm fair and I give, to be fair, the press releases that you do get from big tech companies are very loquacious, I think is the right word.
Good word, that.
Wonderful word.
Thank you. I have my thesaurus right next to
well, James and I, you don't get that with James and I.
And it's a physical thesaurus. It's not just that. I looked it up on ChatGPT. No, I mean, look, there's an effort to make everything look really nice and to use really big words and confuse people about maybe what the products are that they create. I should say, I mean, from a business perspective, people love the big tech companies for a reason. In some ways, it's probably a bit of an appeal to laziness on behalf of media planners or strategists, in the sense of they really can do so much for you and do it effectively. And they're grading their own homework, so I don't think it's really trustworthy. But plenty of people are certainly happy to advertise with any big platforms, because that tech is pretty amazing. Yeah, it's built off of data privacy concerns that I have as a user, but put that aside if you're just in the business and sort of say, wow, okay, I can use that. I just worry that people miss the bigger picture.
Jack, it's been really quite refreshing having you on, because we hear from all sides of the AI world, and sometimes we get people on and they're just talking about all the amazing things it does, and it's also nice to get the other side of the story, and you've raised many points that I completely agree with, and it's been fantastic to get a journalistic insight into this. We've touched about some of the things that scare you. They scare me. They probably scare James as well. Before we let you go, what excites you about AI and the future?
I think the most exciting innovations are in the field of medicine, in the field of science. I mean, there are. I have spent the past half hour or so raising a huge number of social concerns that this technology is bringing with it. There are, like with any technology, potentially huge benefits. I mean, it's the same thing. The Industrial Revolution created mass wealth inequality. Ultimately, that was corrected It took a lot of pain, but also the Industrial Revolution gave us modern medicine, right? So there are potential opportunities if we take the right careful steps today to minimize pain. And I'm worried that we're not doing that. If we're chasing efficiency in business, how many people are going to be out of a job? What's the solution for that, right? In the meantime, in the background, hopefully science can be allowed to do its thing. If scientists can use this technology, yeah, there could be absolutely massive breakthroughs. But media and advertising, I'm worried that there's too much short-termism at the moment. I don't want to just be a pessimist because no one likes to hear from pessimists, do they?
No, but I think it is really important that we look at all sides of this debate, and that's what James and I like to do. So it's really refreshing actually to be hearing a slightly different viewpoint than we might have had on last week, for example. So, Jack, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much. It would be next time you get a big scoop like you got the other week with the publishing story, do let us know. Come back in and tell us all about it. We'd love to chat with you again.
I'd love that. Thanks, guys, so much for having me.
James, do you think Jack is more or less optimistic about AI than I am?
Your question at the end was brilliant. It's like, what are you sort of excited by? He kind of went there and then, sort of very quickly sort of went back. I think he's very eloquent, and I think he talks really well about it. And it's coming from a place where, like, he's talking about his own industry, he's talking about publishing. So, and you know what? We have a bunch of people on here who are like me, Duracell Bunny with how exciting all these things are. So, yeah, I thought it was good. I thought he was good. It was sort of pretty hard to disagree with a lot of what he says as well.
I loved having Jack on the podcast. I think he is more negative about AI than I, and I'm really happy to be friend. Yeah, I am. Realist friend. Real down-to-earth people who understand that AI is changing the world, but it's not always good, James.
Oh, doom a friend.
Doom a friend. Right, talking of doom, you're about to face a whole world of it as the AI challenge is back. And for that, this is where James and I go head to head in a challenge where we have to differentiate between real and AI. Currently, I'm 1 point up in the AI challenge, but we saw in the Ryder Cup quite recently things can change, but hopefully not by enough. You're America in this quite poor analogy. I'm going to stop talking now and welcome on to I Haven't a Clue our marvellous producer Molly.
Hello everybody, welcome back.
Hey Molly.
It's been a while, hasn't it, since we've done a AI challenge?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
Haven't missed
time. Flies when you're having fun.
It's still pretty close as well. 7-6.
To who?
To George.
Me.
To you?
Yeah, no, it is. I'm up, yeah.
Okay.
But it's all to play for. Mm-hmm. So this week we're going back to some sound effects. It's all around famous sound effects.
Okay.
So much like the Wilhelm scream. That's like a stock effect. Okay. It was first used in 1951.
Okay.
And it's been, now you've heard it, you'll hear it loads in all sorts of things from like cartoons to films. So we're on that sort of vibe. So I've got 6 clips in all. 3 are real, 3 are fake.
Love it.
And for the purposes of equality and fairness, James, should we take it in turns as to who locks in their answer first?
Yeah, if that's how you want to play it, I'm happy to go with that approach.
Okay, well look, I'm winning, so would you like to go first or second in locking in your first one?
I'm gonna give you the honour today.
Okay, let's do this. Come on then, Mol.
Okay, here's your first clip.
I am going to go real.
Yeah, same, real.
That one was fake.
Oh,
jeez. Could be a long night.
Start. Okay, right, 5 to go. Let's do this.
Okay, here's number 2. Spooky.
Yeah, too much for me. AI.
Real.
That one was AI.
Ah!
Okay, coming up next. This is a longer one.
I'm going to say real.
Yeah, I'm going to say real.
Was it the length that gave it away? That one was real.
Of course it was.
Okay, James has one up with 3 to play.
Fun fact on that one. That's a plane nosedive effect. And they don't actually make that sound in real life. They put trumpets on a plane for that one to make it a bit more
Okay, and what's the fun fact?
exaggerated.
Brilliant.
Anyway, the next one. Are you ready?
Ready.
Real or fake? Did David just smash a glass in here?
I think the echo was too prolonged at the end, so I'm going to say that was AI.
I'm gonna say real.
That one was real.
Let's go! We're tied. Okay, tied with 2 to go. Oh, the drama.
So we're going to play the final 2 now, and I need you guys to lock in your answers. Here comes second to last. And here's the last one.
This is tough. I am going to say number 5 is AI. Number 6 is real.
I'm going to twist other way around. Real and 6 is AI.
Oh, okay.
Okay, number 5 was AI, and the last one was real.
Yes! Come on! You are America this week. As I said, it's like the Ryder Cup. You are like Scotty Scheffler crying in the corner. I am Rory McIlroy hitting a birdie.
I just can't get a break on this godforsaken bit of the show. And I don't know why we keep doing it.
Unbelievable.
Are you guessing? Is this sort of informed by some sort of wisdom? Are you guessing? Are you more attuned to this? Like what? I'm just befuddled as to why.
You AI is messing with your mind. All this AI optimism. You're blinded to it. Before we go, how are you feeling? Sorry, are you okay?
Low.
Well, I'm quite high, and we're going to say goodbye on that. A big thank you to the brilliant Jack for joining us. A huge thank you to Team I Haven't a Clue, Molly Carter and David May, our incredible producers. If you've got a question, a weird AI story, or if you just want to, I don't know, poke fun at James for being so bad at the AI challenge, drop us an email at aihaventaclue@gmail.com. You can also check us out across all your socials and on Substack. And if you do fancy subscribing and rating us and even sharing the podcast with a friend who wants to know just a little bit more about AI, then we would love you for that. Thank you, of course, to you for listening. We will catch you next time. But for now, remember...
Just stay curious.